If you are one of many area beekeepers who received a 3-pound package of honeybees on the 18th of April and installed that package in deeps with undrawn out frames, then what you are about to view is what you should find when you inspect your hive. In the first 7 days, you should have found drawn out comb and eggs in some small larvae. 3 pounds of bees is the right amount to cover 4 frames. At least 2 of those frames should have had eggs laid in them by your 2020 queen, bearing an exotic blue dot if she was marked. We are now in the second 7 days. A few of your bees have expired due to natural causes. In the case of worker bees, that means hard work, and some predation. You still have 4 frames of bees, but now you should have 4 frames of eggs, larvae, and capped brood, larval pupal stage development. There should also be evidence of honey, nectar, and pollen storage. Capped honey storage will have light cappings and be in the corners or on the edges of frames. Capped brood will be somewhat darker cappings and will tend to be in the center of frames. If your hive doesn't appear to look like what you are about to view, call your package provider or a mentor from the IEBA listing. Don't delay.
So last week when we did our inspection, we wrote on the top of the lid for the date that we had 1 frame of brood and 4 frames of bees. So over here, we wrote that down on here, and it had adequate honey and had adequate pollen. And today is 5/1. We're inspecting them again. We weighed this hive, it's 36 pounds. It's an 8-frame hive with a feeder in it. So we're pretty well set. Now we'll go through the inspection. This form is in your packet you got during the class, or if you want, I think this form is also online. Okay, we're going to go ahead and inspect this hive, and Jim Lewis is going to do that.
First, we'll give them a couple puffs of smoke up front at the entrance, just to let them know we're here.
So Jim's going to smoke the smoker hole there on the top, and we're going to go into this hive very carefully. We're going to set the inner cover out front, so those bees that are on the lid are going to crawl inside if they want to. We're going to take the frame furthest from the feeder out. It should have the least amount of activity on it. Again, remember from last week we talked about how gentle you got to be to get it out. Now there's a little activity on there. Is there any drawn out comb on it at all?
There was nothing.
So that frame is totally empty. They haven't done any activity on it at all. And again, this side is pretty empty. Yes. And we'll look at the other side and look at that. They're starting to get fairly active on drawing it out.
And it's full of nectar.
So we're seeing it here in the valley and up on the South Hill in the lower areas. We're seeing a significant amount of nectar flow.
These are eggs.
Okay, let's see the other side. Now look at that. They've practically drawn the frame all the way to the bottom. And if you look at right where Jim's pointing, you can easily see the white larvae in there. Look up at the outside edge of this frame and how much pollen they put in it. Okay, so they're getting adequate pollen stores. We're getting adequate honey because they're starting to cap. So we're doing pretty good here. There's a queen right there by Jim's thumb. Right there. She's snooping around. Push her toward the middle a little bit. You feel like a queen herder sometimes when you want to put your frame away and she's out on the outside edge. It's not wise to ever do that. Now we got her out in the middle and we can put the frame back in there adequately. Okay? You see how gentle these bees are? They're just gorgeous. Now, cap brood. Frame number 3. Look at that, beautiful. So she probably laid quite a bit of eggs very early on. And so on the other side of that frame, Jim, you've got cap brood also. So that's just excellent.
You see how light colored this brood is? In a little while it's going to get darker and darker and darker. They've got dirty feet.
That's beautiful to see cap brood on frame 3. Remember, we installed our queen between 2 and 3. Here's frame 2. Nice cap brood in there too. Look at the pattern she laid. She started laying in the middle and she worked around, and now she's laying the very outside with larvae and stuff. Beautiful. And again, we have honey in the corner. We have pollen on the outside edges. We have cap brood there, which tells me she spent more time laying on frame number 3 than she did on laying on frame number 2 when she first started out. So when we look at a frame like that, that is a frame of bees. Okay, now look at how very little area is uncovered. When you looked at frame like this, there's hardly any bees on it. That's less than a cupful. Okay, and same on that side. But you look at that, that's a frame of bees, and you can see the pollen on the other side, but now look at the back side. It's hardly any bees at all, so you only have a half a frame here, okay? So now we'll go back to frame number 2, which we had brood on both sides. We give it a chance to kind of recover. That is probably, look at the other side. You probably have 3/4 of a frame of brood there, of bees there. If you look at the corners, there's no bees. They're fairly light in here on the cap brood. Isn't that what you would expect? Cap brood doesn't need nurse bees to feed it, so there's usually just a few bees around to keep the hive warm. So we're going to close this up very gently. Just remember, if you move everything very slowly and gently, usually the bees will move out of your way. You won't smash any of them. Remember, smashing bees usually sends off a pheromone that gets them excited. Now, because we saw quite a bit of capped honey in this hive, we're only going to give it 2 cans of syrup. And the reason is we don't want it to become honey bound at this stage. So we're going to go ahead and just give it 2. Last week we gave it 4. Okay? Now I've got a scale hive on the back river bank, and we gained about 7 pounds last week from the last time we fed. Okay? So that's a significant honey flow this early in the spring. So we don't want these bees to get so much honey that they start blocking the queen in.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, we got where they laid some drone comb between the two foundations. And we're going to cut that out so they'll go back and draw it right. But you always got to wonder why they did drone comb. And one of the causes of this is the spacing. They had a gap and they wanted to fill it off of one comb to the other. You never know exactly why they do it, but you don't want to leave it, because they'll end up messing up every frame you got. So that's frame number 5. Not seeing eggs and stuff on frame number 5 isn't a big deal. Now we're looking at frame number 4. We have eggs all through here. Here's our queen right here, see her? She's doing really nice. She's just crawling right along. She's looking for a cell that is all prepped for her. and she just headbutts those bees out of the way to get them out of the way. Up, she says, honey, I got to get out of there. Look at her check that cell. She's looking for one that, see her stick her head down in there? That's a working queen. If you just watch them for a few minutes when you're doing your, there she is. She's just about decided to lay an egg and changed her mind. There she goes. Look at her lay that egg. Okay, she's got her tail down in there. She centers that egg right in the bottom and she's gone. Wow, you guys are lucky today.